You got me beat, hard, hard beat, any way you wanna let it roll. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You got me doing what you want me, baby, what you want me to do. Take it, bro. Yeah. Yeah. Got me up, down, down, up, any way you want me to go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. You got me doing what you want me. Oh baby, what you want me to do.
At the beginning, when I joined, Paul was the only one who'd sleep with me.
Well, there was actually a little bit of a thing to that.
I was never very prejudiced.
No, I thought that
What
was
was
the
it?
best move, really, because when you joined and you were like the new fella and nobody, and I thought, well, if I hang out with you, then they'll all be like, you know. So I thought it'd be good to, you know,
Put Paul with him.
Yeah.
because
then it would
be all right then.
Yeah, it
So
would,
anyway,
because then
but then it
wouldn't be
changed.
like-
It would be with anybody. I mean, for a while, with John and I, we just sort of, you know, went on for different
I
tours.
enjoyed it a lot because, you know, it wasn't the kind of thing you'd done much. I mean, as kids, we'd hitchhiked. So, like, me and George got down to Harlock and you'd sort of sleep in the same bed, and just because, you know, it's like a bed B&B kind of thing. I hadn't really done much of that being away from home when we started.
I haven't done any of it because I'm an only child.
And, you know, Butlins, almost. Yeah.
Yeah, but I still slept on my own.
So it was kind of good, you know, and so it was great. You sort of staying in a room with a friend and that, and seeing his habits. I mean, you stayed up late, didn't you? You couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
So he'd have to have the light on. So it'd be
Because
like
I was frightened of the dark.
it was poor man. So you'd have to, you know, he'd have the light over there and you'd have to sleep this way, and you couldn't like ask him to turn it. Yeah, it was good though, you know, you get to know each other a bit that way.
You know, my hair, I'm still trying to make it go back like
I've
a
got
rock
some
and
mousse
roll
you can
hair.
use.
But really, naturally, it just goes forward. And we used to use that Vaseline, like really thick Vaseline, and just get back like that. And I remember once we went to the swimming baths in Hamburg. I remember walking back down towards the Reeperbahn, and it dried, and it was all like that. And then by the evening, we saw our friends, who was all them, Jürgen and Astrid. And I remember them saying, "Oh no, don't do that. Leave it like it is. It's really good." And it was kind of like that, and everybody around that time was starting to just, because of their influence. If they'd have said, "No, it's naff," we would have probably changed it. But because they liked it, then we liked it.
We didn't really go with it in a major way. We still
when it got into a permanent fixture.
I remember when John and I went to. He had his 21st, and he got 100 quid off his uncle, who was a dentist in Edinburgh. High, very, very elevated stuff. That we'd never known the likes of, like, anyone who had a relative as a dentist.
Anybody who had 100 quid.
Or 100 quid. Well, to this day, I say no one's ever given me 100 quid on my birthday. 100 smackers. Whoa. That was, and then, obviously, you can imagine, it was just like...
Only I'd have known last Saturday.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, 100 smacks. Next time. But,
I may even have it.
But John got this 100 quid, so he said, what should we do? We were hanging out. So we decided to go to Spain, spend this 100 quid. We got as far as Paris. We hitchhiked, got as far as Paris, and decided, no, we'll maybe go to Spain, maybe later in the week, because we kept liking Paris. Anyway, we bumped into Jürgen, who was our friend from Astrid and Jürgen and Klaus. Bumped into Jürgen and said, your hair's nice, could you do ours like that? So he said, are you sure you want this? Maybe, no,
Hello,
said, go on, we're on holiday, Paris, go on and all that. And so he did it, and then we arrived back in Liverpool with this me and John with this sort of funny hair forward, like you were saying, and everyone was a bit dubious about it, but it just fell into the thing then, and we sort of kept it forward.
Sounds
and
good
you
to me.
brushed yours forward. Ringo always had a big grey shock under there from when he was a kid.
Still
Well,
there,
he had
actually.
to have
Still got
his
it.
push done to join the band then.
And he had
Remember
to.
that?
It's the only way I could join.
And it was like, what's his name?
But it was cool because when
the
it came
beard.
forward, you didn't see his grey bit.
He had a beard too.
Beard's got to
Shave
go.
off the
It's like
beard, keep the sideburns,
Buddy Rich.
put your hair down.
We want to
gotta
see
go.
these faces.
Yeah, we've got a look
See your
going
fucking
here.
face, man. No,
I
all these
looked
beards.
about,
We don't want to have beards.
Like this, actually, just before I joined you guys.
That's right, yeah. Only with a suit.
We actually saw a London band in Hamburg. And one of these London bands had this boot with a big point. It had like a chisely pointy toe and a Cuban heel. And we thought, they're good. Where did you get those? And he said, it's in London. It was called Anello and David's. And we went to Anello and David's and bought those boots. And then later we thought, hey, they make them. We'll get our own made.
It was a
And
ballet
so
shop,
the one
wasn't
that became the Beatle boot was like ones we had made. But the original one, do you remember? It had that elastic down the side. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a ballet shop, wasn't it? Anello and David was ballet, made ballet stuff and tutus and shoes. It's where all the little girls went. So we'd
Desmond
be getting
Tutu.
we were getting our Beatle boots made, and there'd be
Getting
little
our tutus
ladies
made.
with their children, No, you had the tutu. I never had one of them. I just had. Well, it was Ringo had his feet bandaged, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You had to go into those
I was
little
going to
ballet
China.
shoes.
so
a
yeah,
terrible
so we had a
moment.
maid, and then later we had, we started realizing you can get whatever you wanted. So because at first they were all the same. Then we could have, like, when we made the
They haven't been our
films,
size.
we'd get, I got a cord suit. What boots would go? I'll get cord boots. Just give them the same fabric and make them. And then we had, like, ankle ones, calf ones, knee high, all kinds of ones.
And there was this one that went. I've been thinking of linking my life with you. Thinking of linking our love so true. Thinking of linking can only be done by two.
Yeah. It was about one of the first ones. There was a commercial on the cinema for Link Furniture called Thinking of Linking. We went the pictures. Good intro. Good intro, yeah.
Well, I've been thinking of linking my love so true. Thinking of linking my life with you. Thinking of linking can only be done by two.
There's no second verse.
Yeah, thinking of linking.
Cost 75 quid, my first car.
Off Johnny Hutch.
That was a good car.
Was it off Johnny Hutch?
Off Johnny
Now,
Hutch.
what colour was it?
Red and white. Hand painted.
Yeah,
Painted by hand. And you had a green Anglia.
blue.
Blue.
That was much later, though.
Yeah. I took you to get that car.
Did you?
Yeah, I took you
To
up
Warrington.
yeah. And as we were coming home, you may not remember,
Ah, yeah.
you were
It's all
speeding
clean
and
up.
I was speeding, and we were both close to each other. And then you overtook this car in front, and I got right up to this car, and I was ready to overtake him. Just as I got right up his arse, a dog ran out in front of him, so he slammed on his brakes. I smashed right into him, broke the fuck out of my car. But was lucky it was by a garage, because I drove it, well, we pushed it into the garage, because I had no license or insurance.
Did I stop or did I keep
Oh,
going?
you just kept going.
I didn't see
You,
what
didn't,
happened.
you just didn't give a damn.
Even till this day, I never knew about that.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, couldn't we do Blue Moon of Kentucky? Well, Blue Moon. No. Yeah, man, he's got the chords. What's the opener? Hey, man. Well, just a shorter version.
Blue moon, blue moon, keep shining bright. Blue moon, keep on shining bright. My baby back tonight. Blue moon, keep shining bright. When I said blue moon of Kentucky, just keep on shining. Shine on the one that's gonna let me blue. Well, blue moon of Kentucky, just keep on shining. Shine on the one that's gonna let me blue. But it was on that moonlight night when the stars shine bright. Wind blowing high, my love said goodbye. Blue moon of Kentucky, just keep on shining. Shine on the one that's gonna let me blue. Shine on the one that's gonna let me blue. Shine on the one that's gonna let me blue.
So did you ever
It was the bad leg.
did you ever
wasn't
meet
it?
Elvis again?
I felt I'd met him several times.
You felt him.
Yeah.
Well, no wonder he didn't stand up.
How do you mean you felt him?
We remember
I
it
have
well.
some memories that I met him several times.
But
Maybe it
did
was
you
just
meet
the
him?
one night.
It
And
was
I
just
kept
such a long
bumping
night.
into him.
It's called flashbacks, I think. Yeah.
Did you meet him again?
No, I met him just once. You met him.
I met him in Madison Square Garden when he was just, I suppose, a couple of years before the end. It's sad, really.
Rhinestone Cowboy.
Because it was like he had all them squawking girl singers and trumpet players and all that stuff, but he had a great rhythm section, James Burton and
Sure.
all that gang. And I just wanted to say to him, just get your jeans on and get your guitar and just do that.
Bit of tape
I
back.
went to see him in Vegas.
and bugger all that other crap.
in
all
the
this
70s.
thing about I did it my way.
After the
Oh, you saw him in Vegas?
yeah.
I only met him that once, that night.
He was, when I saw him, I was like a hippie and I had all this denim on and I had long hair and stuff down to here. It was in the early 70s and I went backstage to meet him and those big dressing rooms, like, miles of toilets and stuff. And so I was sitting there talking to the guys again and he was nowhere to be seen. And then finally he came around the corner and he had that big white outfit with all the gold things and big belt buckle like this. And he looked like Ringo. He was all, his beard was varnished. No, all his hair was black and he was all tanned and stuff. And he seemed like, I thought I was meeting Vishnu or, Krishna or somebody. It was just like, wow. And I just felt like this little snotty, grubby little, hello Elvis, how are you? You know, and he was like, hey, just all this big white thing on. And I just wanted to say, oh, why don't you just go and do That's All Right, Mama, and you know, and
Baby,
forget
Let's
all
Play
them
House.
chick singers, or I did it my way. It was sad, but he did a couple of good tunes.
Yeah. But did you ever meet him again?
Not after that day. But he was great when he was great.
Ain't she sweet? I asked you very confidentially, ain't she sweet? Cast an eye in her direction, on me or mine. Ain't that perfection for your love? I repeat, don't you think she's kind of sweet, neat? Now I ask you very confidentially, ain't she sweet? Ain't she sweet? Ain't she sweet?
Let's go. Well, this has really been a really nice day for me, chaps. So
It's been a pleasure for me too. Yeah. Have you?
Cool, we're going to have to see you for the next 40 years.
Yeah. Well, that should end the series. We could end on this note then. I think it was Candlestick Park.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It was.
This is Candlestick Park.
This is Candlestick Park. No, it's been a very nice day. Thanks for
anyway,
having us, George. Thank you.
It's been really beautiful and moving for me. I like hanging out with you two guys.
Little churchy face. Golden Slumbers. I know it was an old song, isn't it? It's an old.
Well, when did you write it?
Well, I mean, it's not my lyrics. It's an old. It's like it's ancient.
What? Really?
It's sort of it's like an old lullaby.
folk song?
Arthur
Yeah,
Askey wrote the lyrics.
Trad arranged.
traditional
McCartney.
drums.
Yeah. Trad arranged with tune.
Yeah.
I put the tune to it. It's my tune. But
I put
it was
the
at my
drums to it,
dad's house.
traditional drums.
You put the traditional drums on it. I was at my dad's house, and there was one of those sheet music things that was up to learn piano, and I just liked the lyrics and stuff. So I couldn't read the music, so I started doing my tune to it.
Which album is this?
This was on Abbey Road. Abbey Road.
You're George.
Foremost
This is
Beatle
Paul.
expert, George House.
To get back homeward.
Where's the voice?
Bass and piano so far.
Once there was a way
Oh yeah.
to get back home. Sleep, pretty darling, do not cry.
So that's on the piano.
And I will sing a lullaby.
Carry that way. Oh no. Goes into Canada.
Cry, and I will sing a lullaby.
Bye.
Once there was a way to get back homeward.
I don't think you are on it. It doesn't sound like you are.
Who was playing
Doesn't
bass?
sound like anybody's on it.
Wasn't you, was it?
Well, unless it was overdubbed.
Well, why would you ever double take one?
To get back home.
Because he was playing the piano.
Sleep, pretty darling,
playing bass?
do not
Who's
cry.
playing piano?
I think I'm playing piano.
So who was playing bass?
He is.
I think I've
You can't play them at the
overdubbed
same
it.
time.
He overdubbed it.
Can you
You
overdub
can
it?
hear the sound of it. It's like direct inject.
But you did many takes. Take 17. Just take
He was keen.
overdub bass.
Maybe
Okay.
I play bass. I play bass on some with that six-string
I mean,
Fender.
Sounds like it.
It was definitely Paul playing piano, so it couldn't have been
Well,
him
you
playing bass.
you
It
should be able
wasn't.
to tell
Yeah.
because
Shall we?
you know you'd
Just
know
hold
how
it a
you
moment.
would have done it.
there's lots of false starts and breakdowns. That was take one.
So
we end up at
are you
take.
saying the bass couldn't have been overdubbed because it's on every take?
It was live,
Okay, well then it must have been me or John playing it.
obviously. You can't remember.
Could have been Ringo.
Well, look,
Charlie Hayden.
we had a 6-string bass, a right-handed bass.
yeah.
So that for these kind of conditions.
One of the great things about this studio and the way EMI was set up was they were set up for Mrs. Mills or Daniel Barenboim or Russ Conway or Peter Sellers and so on. So they always had these millions of instruments like they still got now, grand pianos, odd little pianos and
All the ones that you
harpsichords.
haven't got at yours.
And they've ended up at my studio now because they're all trying to get rid of them here. And, you know, I'll have them
Neil and Mel would be over here.
behind these big
I
screens.
thought it was over here. See, this is where
No, it's over
everybody
here.
disagrees.
Well, they moved them around so much.
But
I
we
mean, that
mainly
was
were
one
over there,
session,
yes.
wasn't it?
And my bit on up the cable was through that door.
I think he's talking about Yellow Submarine, I think.
I thought it was natural echo, just in that door there.
Yeah.
At that time, there was a little board. The desk up there, the console was just about this big with 4 faders on it. And there was one speaker right in the middle. And for a mix, it'd be funny because everybody would get on a fader each and have full bass and full treble and one speaker, and that was it. When they invented stereo, I remember thinking, why? What do you want 2 speakers for? Because it ruined the sound from our point of view. You know, we had everything coming out of one speaker. Now we had to come out of 2 speakers. It all sounded like very naked.
But then finally someone said, well, you can move things.
Yeah.
So like everything from then on got panned like magic and everything got moved.
But you know, to get to the point where you do a stereo mix and put the drums and bass in the middle, you know,
took a long
it
time.
used to be over on the side.
Because we always used to do that, stick it on us. I remember being at a party at Brian's house and talking to someone and saying, oh, this is a great bit, this on the drums, listen to this. And it wasn't on that speaker. So hang on, put it on again, and we had to go over to the other speaker to hear the drums. You know, it's it going, it's great. There's like no drums in that speaker.
John got a spool of tape of the rough mix of the backing track to, I think it was I'm Only Sleeping. And, you know, by the time he got home, he didn't realise because the tape was tails out. And they just stuck it on a reel, and he put it on his tape machine and threaded the tail in forward and got it backwards. That's when he came in the next day and said, oh, yeah, backwards. And then we made him turn the tape over and play it backwards, and we all played, I think John and I, or Paul and I, played guitars, just like random notes on the guitars. And then we turned the tape back over to see what we had, and that was like the first time we had a backwards solo.
Please don't spoil my day. I'm miles away, and after all, I'm only sleeping.
You know, it became easier to do experiments because we'd had a few hits. You know, that was the key. No, the key was that we'd had success. And then it was, oh, great, come in, lads.
Yeah.
Nice to see you back again. And as we got more and more success, we were more and more able to, you know, try some far-out ideas. And
It'd also give us more time.
and also then you'd have success with something that might have seemed like a far-out idea. And that'd, you know, people would say, wow, this is great. And so when we'd come back again and George would be, you know, really quite keen to try, well, what other ideas have you got, you know? So it just became, you know, like a free house for, you know, whatever idea you wanted, we'd try it.
Alan,
Loops, right, on 2.
can we have a Tomorrow Never Knows, please?
Which take?
all
Which
of them.
take?
All of them.
All of them. First
There's
take.
only
Well,
3.
the first take is very weird.
Oh, well, play
Yeah,
that rear
listen,
take.
listen to this on, it's like the drums and a guitar that's kind of half speed.
You see,
Let's
It's a
hear it
different
right
drum
now.
there's
then.
only two.
Yes.
There's only 2 basic takes, which is 1 and 3.
All that underwater stuff. We should speed that up and see what it was. Listen to the drum part.
Oh, great.
Totally different.
It's a bagpipe.
Nothing on this one.
That guitar, slow down guitar.
So is that just on its
That's
own?
his voice.
That's good. With a bit of drums.
And a bit of loops.
Nothing on there.
We haven't put the loops on this tape.
This was just the first run through.
He wanted his voice to sound like the Dalai Lama chanting from a hilltop. And I said, well, it's a bit expensive going to Tibet. Can we make do with it here? And I spoke to Jeff Emmerich, and he had a good idea. He said, let's try putting his voice through a Leslie speaker and back again and re-recording it. And I didn't think anyone had done that before. And that's the way we got his special effect on his voice there. And the other thing on that weird track was the tambura drone and Ringo's very characteristic drumming.
See, it's like doing a rumba.
It's great, I like it.
How is he doing
What's
that?
that underwater sound?
How is that drummer doing that, George?
Oh, he had to be very brilliant, Ray. It's just brilliant. There's no tambura on it.
What's that with the drums?
Sounds like some kind of resonance on the drums.
Some residue.
Anyway.
Well, that's the one for me.
You then change it after.
Yeah. So that was the first take.
That was the first take.
John just had the song.
Well, the song, I think, was very much influenced by, in those days, the indie music had come in to our lives, and the way indie music just was all on in one key. It didn't modulate.
His idea.
But, he wanted to try a tune like that didn't change chords. And also because of some of the other influences, he had that Timothy Leary book, which was supposedly, I think it was called A Psychedelic Experience, and it had some stuff that related to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and he wrote those words and did it. That
Those
was all
were from
kind
the book,
of
weren't they, those words?
monotone kind of
All
thing.
that lay down your mind, it is not. All
And
that
also, Paul and, there was different things going on, different influences at the time, one of them being avant-garde, Stockhausen. And so, it was very much experimental thing, and all that was a number of experimental things that all came together on the one song.
Oh, that was the breakdown.
Now we're talking.
Now we're talking serious music now. Would you say
Got
now
the tambourines in.
So what have we got there then? Well,
This is the real one
got all your
now.
rhythm on one.
Yeah.
Got the voice on 3.
With the tambura.
And on tracks 2 and 3, you've got your various tape loops and your guitar and tambura.
And on that one, I brought in a bunch of tape loops in a little plastic bag that I'd done at home. And I just made a lot of little loops that I liked, and brought them all in, literally little pieces of loop tape, a little plastic bag. And we got them all on about 8 or so machines, with everyone holding a loop and a pencil or a bit of a glass and stuff, and got them running around on the machines, and then fed them all into the desk and made a little mix that you heard before. All those seagull noises and stuff, it's all sped up tapes and loops. So that was another little ingredient in that.
That wasn't used, was it?
Yeah.
At that point. Bring Phil Collins in.
we actually did.
That
became the
one's
mix.
really good. I suppose you remember what that loop was made of.
Guitar, probably.
When we made that record, we could never reproduce it again. It'd be impossible to reproduce again. Because the way we made it was the actual mix. And all over this building, in different rooms, were tapes, tape machines with loops on them, and people holding the loops at the right distance from the thing with a bit of pencil, going all the time, being fed to different faders on our control panel, which we could bring up the sound like an organ at any time. So the mix we did then was a random thing at that time. Could never be done again.
Nice listening to this.
So the double track voice is straight, and that one is got the wobble
The
on it.
effect on it, yeah.
That's the best
We
one.
are gathered here today. That's good. That's that piano down there.
Was that you?
I don't know, it sounds like you. Yeah, it could be me.
It sounds like you.
Sooty,
Yeah.
ever so funny. Well, there you go.
Hi.
That's how we did it, really. When I went on tour, journalists would say, is it true the Beatles are going to get back together? And I had to have an answer, some kind of answer for that. So the answer became, yeah, well, it may be that the three of us will get in and do some incidental music, maybe an instrumental, for this new Beatles thing we're doing, this Anthology documentary.
We were going to do some like incidental music, you know, just get there and play of the instruments, see what happened. And then, you know, that seemed like an okay idea. And then we thought, well, why don't we do some new music?
We always had a thing between the three of us, or the four of us at that time, that if any one of us wasn't in it, we weren't going to get, kind of Roger Waters and go out as the Beatles, or Dave Gilmour. We were going to, so therefore the only other person who could be in it was John.
We kept hitting that wall because this is a documentary on the Beatles. It's not on Paul, George, and Ringo.
If we were to do something, the three of us, as interesting as it may be, and as nice as we could, I'm sure, make it, to have John in it is the obvious thing.
So Paul, I believe it was Paul who asked Yoko, was there anything of John's that never came out? Maybe we could work with it. And she sent us these tapes, and that's how it came about.
And in actual fact, we didn't know as much as most Lennon fans, because they'd actually knew all the releases. They knew that Free as a Bird and Real Love had been heard. They'd heard them. We hadn't.
It was really emotional. I mean, just hearing the tape that was sent was pretty emotional. And then we got to the studio, and it was difficult for a while. I mean, what? He's not here. We're all here. Where's John? Of course, John's in heaven. And but we had to get over that. We got over that by feeling that he'd gone for lunch, he's gone for a cup of tea, or he's, because all the time we were making records, we weren't all in the room all the time. I mean, sometimes we would split, and so we dealt with it in that way. That's how I dealt with it. That he's just around the corner.
So when we got in the studio, we had this cassette of Free as a Bird. It was very bad quality. It was just a mono cassette with John and the piano locked in on one track, which nobody would normally deal with. You know, you just think, oh, I can't deal with this. But the song was so strong that we overcame those technical difficulties, or rather Jeff Lynne did, who was producing.
It wasn't an easy thing because they were like mono tapes and John singing on them with the piano as well. And so you couldn't really separate anything. So John is actually playing piano on the records too, you know, which is a great thing. So it kept the integrity of that, and it wasn't like his voice just appearing out of nowhere. He was actually doing a performance at the same time. Technically, it was virtually impossible to do it, but we did it, you know, because we really worked at it very hard.
So after that, we did like a basic track with all these gaps in it. And then we had to fill in the song, you know, which is what happened.
What we actually did was remake this song. I mean, even with chords and stuff, we changed chords.
Beautiful. Well, I vote for the E suspended. What do you think, audience?
We changed arrangements, we added parts, and we wrote lyrics, and then we made the multi-track tape of this song, and then took John's voice and laid him into the track.
When it started taking shape and John was sort of in there and coming up and singing, and I think everybody from that moment said, wow, this really works, you know, and I was really thrilled because I'd spent a long time after we got the backing done making the vocals fit exactly.
Let's check that, it was really good.
And once that happened, I think we were all, oh yeah, it's really good, you know, and it's not doing John a disservice or whatever. It's actually making it into a really good record.
I listened to it and I thought it sounds just like them. You know, I'd taken myself away from it for so long that it was like listening to it from like an outsider, and it sounds just like them. It's brilliant.
When George and I were doing the harmonies, and that was what Ringo said when we got back in the control, it just sounds just like the Beatles, you know.
It wasn't surprising to me, really, because, I mean, that's what I went there for, was to work with the Beatles. So I always, like, assumed in my naivety, whatever, that it was going to sound like a Beatles record because I'm working with the Beatles.
It's got to sound like them if it is them. It sounds like them now. That's what I think.
The first choice was Free as a Bird, and we did that in February '94, and then kind of really didn't do much except put together the Anthology, not recording-wise, anyway, till February '95, where we went back to my studio with Real Love.
All my little plans and schemes lost like some forgotten dream. Seems that all I really was doing was waiting for you.
Well, Real Love's poppy. It's more of a poppy song. It was more difficult actually because we'd already done it. So now we're doing it again. So you know, for me, I felt it was more difficult to turn it into a real Beatle track.
The thing for me that was not quite as much fun in the recording of Real Love was it was finished. It had all the words and the music, so I didn't really get to input, which like the other three of us had been able to input on Free as a Bird. So it made it more like a Beatles session. This was more like we were sidemen to John, which was joyful and it was good fun, and I think we did a good job.
And I was like this, I wasn't even a fly on the wall, I was like a fly in the middle of the room, at the desk, and it's great, this is. And it was the most, it's beyond my wildest dreams to have actually sat with the three of them. Very few people have, I think. And to be making the records with it, it was just astonishing.
Brought back a lot of good memories, and it also gave me a chance to hang out with Paul and George again. We hadn't done that in a while.
We work well together. That's the truth of it, We just work well together. And that's a very special thing. When you find someone you can talk to, it's a special thing. You find someone you can play music with, it's something.
I think we just, we've had so much the same background, our musical background and where we came from and what we listened to, in common. And then all those years we played together, it's somehow it's made a very deep groove in our memories, and it doesn't take much to lock in. It's real, it's real love, it's real. It's real, it's real love, it's real, it's real love, it's real, it's real love, it's real, it's real. I think it was, the early 70s, 71. I collected all the footage that I could find from around the world, and we put a documentary together, or a film together, that was, without the Beatles being interviewed or anything like that. It was just put all the film together. It was about 1 hour and 3/4 long, right? And then I put it on the shelf for 20 years.
And it was an extremely interesting story. But of course it was then done it was very, very close to the breakup, so it wasn't done with that long perspective.
It was on the shelf, right? I knew it was there, but I didn't really think about it. It was a question of getting like a lot of other, business things together, and getting control, if we could, of various elements of Beatle business, if you like. And when we were in that position, it was easier to do. It was really easier to do than not.
I really thought the anthology would happen when Neil said there's going to be an anthology. We're going to do the whole story, and the fellas have agreed. And then I knew it would be on, and I was very interested in a detached sort of way.
I think maybe I mentioned it to everybody in sort of like 1990 or 91 or something like that, And then we started doing it. I got the production team together, the production office together, and we started doing it.
Well, I'd worked with the three of them before, but I was doing directing McCartney's oratorio for Liverpool. And he phoned me up and said that he'd had a chat with an old mate of mine. And I thought, my God, who can that be? And I said, well, who do you mean? He said, George Harrison. I said, oh yeah. He said, I didn't know you'd work with George. So I said, well, yeah. He said, but then again, he didn't know you'd work with me.
I was on my way to the Montreux Jazz Festival. I'd arranged to go and work on that. And Jeff rang me out of the blue and told me about it, because he initially got in touch. And he said, well, you've got to make your mind up. Are you coming or not? So the rest is history. Jeff and I arrived down here to an empty rooms.
I was working at EMI, PMI, making television programs. Jeff was a director who'd worked there. We'd both worked with Paul on the oratorio and different things. And he'd been asked to do this and was doing it, and nobody had asked me. And I said to him, why haven't you asked me? I'd love to do this. And he said, well, I didn't even think that you'd want to do it because you have a proper job, full-time job. And Jeff seemed very happy, spoke to Neil Aspinall, spoke to Paul, and went and talked to Neil and got the job.
Well, actually, I was on holiday when the rest of the guys started, right? And I thought, bad timing. You know, I expected to sort of come back and find out that they decided that I was surplus to requirements and didn't need me anymore. So when I got back from holiday, I phoned up Apple and I said, I'm Bob Smeaton, I'm going to be working on this job. I said, yeah, come down whenever you're ready. And we came in and said, now we're going to make a programme, which we hadn't really thought about too much.
And it's the same track again.
Yeah, it's the same track again for the third time.
What, Rock and Music?
Yeah.
No, because that was meant to be one
Chunk,
section.
I know.
As well as the work that's been done by the guys upstairs, there's obviously been a phenomenal amount of work done by a very small team. I mean, basically, the whole production of this has been done by 10 people, including research and everything. I think we've used somewhere between 9,000 and 10,000 different pieces of footage and music, and all that's had to be cleared, all that's had to be logged. It's been a phenomenal job done by people here.
I'm as kind of useful to have around if the Beatles are being discussed in a variety of ways. I mean, there are ways in which I'm no use at all. I'm no use on some minutiae and detail. I'm not good on things like clearances and all the mechanics of making a documentary. But on perspectives and some insights, I can be handy to turn to. And I'm extremely generous with my time and views. And I get along with them and with Neil.
I realised that the one thing that we had that nobody else had, no third party had, right, was the surviving Beatles, the three of them, and all John's interviews with Yoko's consent, right? And so once I started putting it together, what I decided right from the very beginning, right, not just now, but 20 years ago, when I did the original one, was not have some like mid-Atlantic voice commentator, right, telling the Beatles story, right? It was better for them to tell their own story. For them to tell their own story, they had to be interviewed.
So basically it was 3 months of looking at stuff and listening to stuff before we put anything together. And then, of course, they're not the easiest people to get a hold of. So I think that was about 3 months trying to get hold of them to do an interview, really.
The interviewer, that was the other thing, to get an interviewer that wasn't an in-depth interviewer. You know, a David Frost type interviewer, you know, that would go into and put everybody on their guard about, you know, what you're going to say. But really to use another musician, that's how Jules Holland became involved.
I think that my real job was to interview them and to ask them about their history, starting at the beginning, from when they were small, going right up to the end of it. And some of it was quite, some of it's quite hard to talk about the later parts. You know, it's quite there was unhappy moments, there's laughter and tears, of course. And I think because I'm a pianist and a musician more than a sort of a hard-nosed interviewer, I think because of that they found it easier to relax.
And so Jules tended to ask like questions that like say a trained interviewer or whatever wouldn't ask, you know. And with the Elvis episode, he asked if Priscilla was there, which is fine, But I don't think a regular, interviewer would have asked, what was she wearing? It's not sort of like an in-depth question, is it?
You remember how Priscilla was dressed?
I think she had a long thing on and a tiara.
I've got this picture of her like as a sort of Barbie doll with like gingham, kind of purple gingham, and a gingham bow in her very beehive hair.
Do you remember seeing Mrs. Presley?
No, I don't. Well, could be. I don't remember. I spent most of the party trying to suss out from his gang if anybody had any reefer.
What would be was would want to know what each program was going to be, right? So I would like write the main areas. See, right, we've got to hit this base, this base, this base, etc. And then once we knew what we wanted to get in there, was a case of making sure that we got the information from the Beatles in order to make the programs.
By the time they got to the third interview, in a sense, for me, it's noticeable, because you'll find that if you ask one of them a question, whichever one it is, if they don't know the answer, they'll say, oh, well, maybe Paul knows the answer, or maybe Ringo knows the answer, or maybe George knows the answer. So then you can cut to the other individual who doesn't know the answer anyway, right? And so he'll say, maybe somebody else knows the answer. And that came from watching what they'd done in their first interviews, right? And seeing if you don't know the answer, pass it over to the next guy. And then you've got quite a nice little cut and stuff, So they gradually got into it as like making this thing,
We were aware all the time that, John wasn't with us to go to him and get a quote from him. But the researchers done such a thorough job that there was like, sometimes you'd need a quote from John and you'd have the option of 6 or 7 quotes. And because he was so succinct in everything that he said, and John in all his interviews talks so well, and if you ask him a question, he gives you the answer.
We looked through hours and hours of footage of everything that we have on John, and just really sort of he's represented mainly in sort of slow motion shots, because obviously he can't be talking or saying the thing. Wherever he's appeared in archives saying anything, we've tried to use.
We've used all that stuff, and tried to give them all equal billing. They've all seen it. They've all had an approval process, so they all agree with what's in it and whatever. If there's something that somebody particularly, wants to change or doesn't like about themselves, right, then we would change it.
They left us alone, basically, certainly for 3 years in the main. There weren't major things to change.
These are Paul's notes for Programme 1 changes. There's not very many, as you can see. We're doing a good job here. Sack the crew. That's one person.
They came in occasionally. They came in, the three of them together, which was fantastic. To have them in here to look at various parts of it. But no, that they have been, in many ways, a joy to work with. And they're still the Beatles, but I've had more problems on a new band making a $5,000 pop video.
They've all been, I think, completely honest and quite and very frank, to the point where some of the things they say if you were doing a safe interview about yourself, because after all they're making the film, that you might not say. But I think that they feel that the story should be told pretty much as it is, and the truth should be known as much as it can be, even if some of it is a bit sort of painful. So they talk, and I think that's what I was pleased that it wasn't just a sort of a showbiz cover-up or something like that.
Position that was taken by Apple and certainly by us during the making of it has been, this may never be released. We don't know. That's why we can't talk about it. So for a while there was very much a sense of that. I can't think of any particular moment where you really felt it's never going to be released. It never got that heavy or that unpleasant. But you always, got the sense from the phone calls you were getting, the broadcasters that were phoning up, people asking questions about it, you got some sort of sense of what it was going to be like when it was finished.
Now you've got to start making decisions about what to leave out, what to leave in. You've also got a deadline. It's got to be finished by this time. Getting the music together for a film, getting the rights together, getting you know, whatever those rights are, master use licenses, publishing licenses, you know, permissions for somebody's name and likeness that you've used in there. If they won't give it to you, for example, or you can't get a particular song, then you've got to change that bit of the thing. So it's the finishing process that, under pressure, because you've got a deadline, that for me is always like the what's the word for it? It's the most traumatic time, if you like, you know.
Now, what is interesting about this anthology now is that they've had a long time to think about it, to get used to not minding being Beatles, that they had been Beatles. It's no longer an embarrassment to them, and it's time to, as the cliche goes, reclaim their own history.
Rolling. Okay. Action.
Originally, we were going to have a bird in the piece, and you just follow the bird as it flies through history. It's like a magic bird that flies through. Not magic in the sense that it glows or anything like that. It's just the bird that takes you through the history of the songs, where they came from, visiting the places that inspired the pieces.
The bird flies through the Beatles' lyrics. You know, it flies through Penny Lane and Helter Skelter.
And then Neil said not to use a bird because at a previous time they had talked about that and no one could agree on what kind of bird it should be.
You never see the bird. The camera is the bird.
The sound of the wings, we did that so that the rest of the piece would make sense. That's why you have the loud flapping and everything at the beginning, so that later on you know what it is that's taking you through these places, not just a camera. It's literally a bird. We went back and forth between all the guys. We had to send our notes back to all the surviving Beatles and Yoko for their approval of the ideas. And then Derek Taylor was incredibly helpful. When we presented a sketch of the idea, he sent us a 2-page note back, which was a beautiful piece of poetry, which not only reaffirmed the potential of the idea, but also gave us a lot of attitude toward the way the material should be approached. We tried to shoot in all the authentic locations where things happened. We shot Penny Lane and Penny Lane, and we had the art department rebuild it as close to what it was as possible. Of course, we shot the Liverbirds, the helicopter shot the Liverbirds in Liverpool. We shot near the docks for the dock scene in Liverpool, which was a reference to John's father.
I am the puppy girl from Penny Lane.
The life that we once knew. Can we really live without each other?
We had huge casting sessions. We had hundreds and hundreds of people on tape. And went through the tapes both in London and in Liverpool and in Manchester. And almost all the people were local people. I think maybe a few actors from London. Paperback Writer, I think, was an actor from London. And but most of them were basically local people who participated in the piece.
Got it? Okay, can you do that?
Yeah.
All right.
To do like a banquet of piggies based on the Sgt. Pepper cover with all these celebrities, all these different people having dinner. We weren't quite sure how we were going to do it. It was probably going to have to be done digitally after the fact, after the production phase. And the art director had gone to a prop house and found these fabulous little piggy masks. And instead of doing this really complicated and probably ponderous scene with all these people at a banquet, we just had these little children with these very unusual masks skipping down a little lane in Liverpool, which is far more powerful and much more in keeping with the kind of spirit of what the Beatles were at that period of time. We storyboarded all the ideas with kinds of points of view about the material, but we ignored the storyboards completely once we got to see everything in practicality. There's nothing storyboarded about the idea at all. You couldn't storyboard the way the camera flowed because of the difference of perspective of the shots and things. And one shot in particular was storyboarded, the Lotus crashing. Was storyboarded from above, so the bird sees from above and you go above it. We shot it like that for hours and hours and hours. And then at the last minute, I had the Steadicam operator do 2 or 3 takes coming from a more normal perspective. And in the flow of the piece, that became the key way we showed it. It was much more interesting that way. Much more interesting. The flow, the shot from above looked nice on a storyboard, and it was kind of clever and from a bird's point of view. But it was better to bring the bird down to a human point of view to see the emotion in the car and the smoke and the people. The video's made up of referenced archival footage that existed, and footage that we filmed live, and then bits and pieces were put in at various places which were shot on a green screen stage, which is a way to just marry film. Almost everybody knows what that means now, which marries the live background and putting elements into a live background to enhance it. A couple of shots would be the dog running across the front of the Eleanor Rigby Cemetery.
Always made me feel so free.
The elephant was put in post-production. We didn't have an elephant in Liverpool walking through that hotel room. We had to shoot the elephant because when Ringo saw Rough Cut, he wanted his elephant. And we hadn't shot the elephant as part of the piece. And Neil called and said, Ringo wants an elephant in the piece. He says he likes everything, but he misses his elephant. George wanted his sitar, and Ringo wanted an elephant. And so we got an elephant and shot it on green screen and snuck it in that procession in that ballroom. The big star of the piece is a Russian crane called the Aquila crane, which gives these big sweeping moves. And the shot at Abbey Road at the end, it comes down and sweeps up again. Couldn't be done with a Luma crane. That was the star of the piece. Then we used the Luma crane for more precise shots, smaller shots, and a Steadicam operator. And we also had a little tiny remote-controlled helicopter, tiny helicopter with a video camera on it to do intricate shots. The thing that I'm most happy with is the fact that the seamlessness of the piece works. The transition between scenes doesn't look like, oh, all of a sudden there's a transition. Many of them are completely invisible to even people in the industry. So that the seamlessness of everything, marrying all these bits and pieces of things, archival footage, new footage shot on green screen, plus the production footage, which was live, made me very happy.
The life that we once knew always made me feel
We were given this piece that represents something that's incredibly precious to untold numbers of people around the world. And we had to protect it, in addition to do something that inspired people. So there was a duality there. One, we wanted to do something very creative and functional and do the job as a professional piece. On the other hand, we had to respect everything that had gone before. I felt that we succeeded in respecting the tradition and bringing it forward and inspiring it and looking at it in a fresh and unusual way, which even reflects how the song was created. One of the things that's a bit heartbreaking is that the player at the end, the ukulele player, or banjo, whatever you want to call it, George wanted to play that part, and I resisted, saying that if I put him in, then I'd have to put some of the other Beatles in. And I didn't think we wanted to see a contemporary Beatles in the piece. So I said, no. And he says, okay. Thinking that they had sampled an archival piece of music, and it turns out that George had actually performed that on the song. Had I known that, I would have had him do it, because you only see him from the back anyway. But I'm actually heartbroken about not letting him do that piece, especially now, more than ever.
The anthology, what we call the anthology, was originally called The Long and Winding Road. You know, the idea was for the boys to make their own life story rather than entrust it to somebody else. And that made sense because they knew better than anybody what had been going on. And somebody thought it'd be a good idea to have audio equivalent. But it's no good just doing a soundtrack of a film, because if you do that, there's an awful lot of missing. You know, the vision takes over. So what we're providing is something that is a complement to it. That's something that runs parallel, but is pure sound.
The main gist of it is, with the music, to find the most ancient Beatle music possible and come in chronological order through the various other records we'd made and bring it up to date, up to now.
What we do is we lead the CD with the new song, Free as a Bird, which we figure is what people are waiting to hear, you know, how we did on that. So that's the opening track. And then what we do is flashback.
Also, as the documentary starts and then goes backwards, you know, there's a little area in the very opening where it says, let's go back, and it backs up until Ringo is about 6 months old. And then the record, we thought, you know, could work in that respect.
There's a lot of stuff, you know, from old tape recorders of George, you know, George on some, but Paul and John messing around, you know, singing and playing guitars before I was in the band.
And then we go into old recordings, which are from when we were about 14 or 15, which we haven't heard forever, you know, they're like little things in my front room.
And these are interesting because they include a track where Stuart Sutcliffe is playing. And its bass guitar is not very good, but it's historic.
You know, we're talking really about a historical thing now. And I, for one, don't mind it being old and scratchy, because most of the music I buy is old and scratchy, you know, music that was recorded in the very early, you know, 20s and 30s and stuff. I like a bit of tape hiss, personally.
But it's good story. It's not the quality you're listening to, it's the sort of story. And you can see our development. You can see it happening.
And we hear some of the stuff at EMI. When I first met them in 1962, there are a couple of tracks there. The very early version of Love Me Do, which with Pete Best on drums, which no one's heard.
Now, no tapes exist of that, but he managed to find it on a little acetate because they'd cut it onto disc. He found that, and then that's been recopied back onto tape.
When I was asked to do this project, I said, there's no way that I'm going to mix this on a modern digital machine, because it wouldn't be true to type. It wouldn't be what people did in those days, and I'm dealing with these old tapes. So I asked EMI if they could find an old disc and bring it in for me. And so they managed to find this one, which was still in the possession of one of their engineers. And they brought it in, and it's a super disc, marvellous machine to have. This was in number 2 Studio, Abbey Road, and it was the state of the art in those days, but it now it looks so old-fashioned. But of course it's very appropriate that we work on this, because it actually does make a different sound from today's discs. So we're getting right back retro to the old days and doing this stuff. And it sounds all the better for it. And I'm staying in the analog and the old-fashioned mode until the very last moment, until it goes onto CD, so that we keep the authenticity of it. A lot of these tapes we're working on are 2-track, 4-track, 8-track, never more than 8-track. And we still have the old tapes, and this is an old box, and they're 1-inch tapes, and there's a 4-track machine. It's a modern machine, but it is still the old vintage tapes of 32 years ago.
It's like the Beatles progression, and I'm halfway through that CD before I enter the picture.
Oh, it just keeps on coming. There's a lot of very early years, but stuff that hasn't been heard. Television or radio shows from Sweden, and various things from the Command Performance, things that just had a one showing on television, but we managed to find the soundtracks to some variety shows we did on television in those early days.
There isn't a lot of live stuff out on the Beatles, and I haven't even got it, so it was a pleasure for me to hear, you know, because they were a great little band.
We've been listening to every take of every song we've done, and going back over those times, and we've discovered some interesting stuff. I mean, some of the very early takes of most numbers are interesting, seeing how the songs developed, how they changed. In fact, in some instances, they started quite differently to the masters that everybody knows.
And we get into sort of cross-fading, like, you know, take 1 to take 4. So, and on some of them where, you know, we were just working the song out, you know, still running through it, because we always ran through the song. We very seldom sat around, like when the tape was running, said, oh, let's do this and that, we'd, like, run it down. And so the attitude it was like at the beginning to 7 takes later, it's just like a mile. You know, it's not like, oh, we've changed, you know, a note. I mean, we changed the whole thing, working at it, changing it.
One of the strengths of the Beatles was the fact that they had eternal curiosity. They had eternal quest for something new. Exhaustively so for me. I mean, they were always saying, what new sound can we have, you know? What other instruments do you know? You know, what can you do to make this better? Give me a different sound of the voice. And they were not content with what they had yesterday.
The one interesting thing was that we always thought that people like the Supremes kind of made a good record, but then they repeated the good record, and the next record was sort of the same record. It was the Supreme sound, the Motown sound. So after about 3 of those, we liked the first one really, second one was not so good, and it paled a bit, you know. So I think we were kind of conscious of trying not to repeat ourselves.
And the songwriting got better and our playing got better, so it just all, you know, it all just grew.
The music was always there in the background, reflecting our feelings and our desires and all the various things we'd experienced. And I think it does. It goes in leaps and bounds, and it's pretty interesting.
Now, I thought we'd have a listen to a bit of an old recording that we've been working on. This doesn't require a great deal of balancing. It's a recording made on the 19th of January 1967, and the reason it doesn't require much balancing is it's only got 2 tracks in it. It was a 4-track tape, but this was the very first time we heard A Day in the Life in the studio. And we didn't use this. This was the first version. The master came a bit later, and this is the version without Paul's middle bit and without the orchestra. And John is just singing it, really, for himself. And I think it's charming. And I'm going to put it out. OK, Paul, let's have a listen.
Sugar Bum Fairy, Sugar Bum Fairy.
Sugar Plum Fairy.
I read the news today, oh boy, about a lucky man who made the grade. And though the news was rather sad, well, I just had to laugh. I saw the photograph. He blew his mind out in a car. He didn't notice that the lights had changed. A crowd of people stood and stared.
I think that early take of John is so charming, so natural. He wasn't expecting people 32 years later to be listening to it.
Sometimes after 19 takes, you know, no matter how professional you are, there's the boredom creeps in. You can just hear it. Like goes very perfect. But you suddenly, if you listen to an early take, you go, God, sounds like they were really enjoying it on that take. And that's one of the things I like about it.
Now, as it gets into all the other stuff, we found different outtakes, or maybe a version of something that had maybe some vocals that were different to the vocals that ended up on the master. So what we've done is present the alternate version.
You hear the songs for what they are. I know George Martin, when we were listening to a lot of this stuff, he said, well, why did we ever feel we had to do them again? So it sounds so good just on their own. I said, well, you know, probably the same old creative thing. Ooh, maybe we could get it a bit better if we put a little bit of drums on it, or maybe if we tried banjo. You know, you're always questing to try and get better.
Normally, I don't think back on the past at all, but I've had to because of this. And it's been a strange experience. Paul actually said to me, he said, you know, it's hearing ourselves as we were 30 years ago, 25 years ago, and hearing us chatting away. It's a strange experience. It's like looking into an old scrapbook, but it coming to life most vividly.